a brief summary of how we're going to operate this year a little bit differently than the last year. Chairman Turner and I and the House side have had an opportunity to get together, and we're trying to limit duplicative work. Last year, there were a lot of bills that came out of one of the chambers, and we've talked about the bills. If there's one that's not handled in this committee today, there's a great chance that Chairman Turner is going to be bringing it up at his next committee meeting. So if you'd like to check on a bill after this meeting, I'll be glad to discuss it with you and tell you, but we're really cutting down on the duplicative work. Y'all want to come on in? There's some chairs. All these chairs are not going to be used if you'd like to pull them back. I hate for you to stand up. Okay, Senator. Yeah. Okay, the first item we're going to go to is Senate Bill 2415, because Senator Boyd is the author of that bill, and she's not on our committee anymore. But we're thankful that she's here today to explain her bill. So Senator Boyd, would you please bring up Senate Bill 2415?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for letting me come before y'all today. This is the telemedicine legislation, Senator Michelle.
I'm sorry. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I did want to go 2712 first. You're going to help us with that bill too. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's fine.
You got two of them today.
Yes. 2712 comes before us because there's been a particular issue across the state in regards to white bagging and brown bagging as it comes to pharmaceuticals. Now, I know most of y'all have an idea what brown bagging is when it comes to alcohol, but we're talking about it in a completely different arena today. So what white bagging is the insurance or the PBM requires the treatment from a specialty pharmacy, often associated with an insurer or a PBM, and then sent to the hospital for administration to the patient. The brown bagging, what it does is it requires the insurer or the PBM, what they do is require it to be cured from a specialty pharmacy and then sent to the patient. And then the patient is responsible for bringing it to the hospital for administration to the patient. Now, today, we are only talking about physician-administered drugs. We're not talking about drugs that you give yourself, your hypertension medicine or, regular maintenance medicine. We're talking about the physician-administered drugs only. And so you can imagine that if you're in Mississippi, in rural parts of the state, and you go to a provider and they are not able to procure that medicine directly from the hospital, directly from the local pharmacy, you have to then go to your mailbox. You have to wait. You may be on a rural route, and you are then responsible for bringing in your medicine to that hospital. There is a host of issues with that. If you live in Arkansas and Louisiana, that can't happen to you because they've already outlawed these practices. There's numerous things that can happen with that. You have patient safety concerns greatly when this happens. You have cold chain concerns. Most of these medications have to be refrigerated and have to be stored at certain temperatures. That doesn't happen when it's coming in your mailbox. There can be tampering, contamination risk. It's also delayed administration risk. Imagine that you are a patient, and we have letters that are coming in, the pages are bringing in just a second, from our oncology groups, and they are here today. Imagine that you have an aggressive form of cancer, and your hospital has that drug to be able to administer you immediately and start you in treatment. But imagine your insurance provider saying, nope, you can't do that. You're going to have to wait a number of days before you can start that treatment, and they can start that treatment for you today. Imagine that that's your position you're in, and with an aggressive form of cancer. There's also ensuring proper dosing adjustments, because when providers order and stock medications themselves, they can make real-time adjustments for those dosages. If you're having to rely on the postal service or a delivery service for doing that, you're going to be delayed in that. Also, too, avoiding last-minute cancellations or waste. If a patient's condition changes before that medicine is done, you're leading to unusable financial losses and treatment delays. Also, there's a complexity in coordination, often requiring additional administrative steps between insurance companies, pharmacists, and providers. There's billing and reimbursement issues on that. It is definitely, as I mentioned before, an increased risk of treatment delays, and that is something we're extremely concerned about. It's a burden on the patient. Our patient population in Mississippi is oftentimes rural. They are not sometimes sophisticated on medical issues. And so the importance of keeping those medications at the proper temperature and all of that can be lost. Imagine this being your grandparents who may live in rural parts of the state, and imagine them requiring that they get something from their mailbox when transportation may be issued, drivers may be an issue, and they get these medications back to the doctors in an appropriate manner. It also has a problem with lack of in-house inventory when all of this happens. There's a potential for financial and legal liability on the providers that are administering the medicine because they cannot be sure of the quality that this medication is kept. So there are all these things would do this. It impacts our providers in a number of ways. There's some legal and regulatory compliance issues. Many states have laws requiring who can dispense and handle certain medications. These laws, allowing this to do this provides legal ambiguities on the patients who are actually handling these medications. So this is something that is supported by the pharmacist, is supported by our physician community, our hospitals, and it's something very important. So I'll just tell you to kind of go to it. I'm going to hit you through the highlights of the bill. If you'll go to lines 40 through 41, the definition of a covered person is any policyholder, subscriber, enrollee, member of any individual covered by a health insurance plan. 4243 defines a health insurance issuer. Lines 44 through 45 give you the definition of the health insurance plan and goes into that. 46 through 54 gives you the definition of participating provider. And lines 55 through 56 is the definition of a PBM. 57 through 60 nails down that this is only a physician-administered drug. Anyway, and then 61 through 70 prohibits the health insurer or the PBM from refusing to authorize, approve, or pay for providing covered physician-administered drugs or related services, requiring a covered person to pay a penalty additional fee to obtain the physician-administered drug when provided by a hospital. 71 through 79 requires provider agreements that the drug administration will be payable. And then regardless of whether the provider obtains physician-administered drugs from a pharmacy in the insurance network. And then 80 through 84 requires payment to a provider at the rate in the health insurance agreement applicable to the acquisition cost. So anyway, this would be go under our Consumer Protection Act. It's the same as a 340B violation, and it 95 through 159 conforms to the language of the Consumer Protection Act with that. So I'm happy to take any questions. I think that you had a provider here that can kind of attest to this as well.
Any questions of Senator Boyd? Van?
Senator Boyd, I understand what you're trying to do and avoid the liabilities of some of these drugs and the way they're administered. But in the example that you gave, you said that if a patient needed a medicine and it was on file at the hospital, what if I'm on some type of specialty drug and it's not available to that hospital?
This would not preclude that taking place. This would not preclude this. This precludes like roundabout. This would not prohibit anything like that. But what it would prohibit is the requirement that it be white bag or brown bag.
Where in the bill is the exception?
There doesn't have to be an exception on that.
What if a hospital interprets a healthcare provider? It might not be a hospital, it might be in someone else. But what if the health care provider interprets that they don't have to allow the patient to bring in their medicine. Okay, I'm just asking a question here. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there questions? Is there a motion?
Title sufficient do pass.
Motion Senate Bill 2712, title sufficient do pass. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The bill will be reported. Now we'll get to Senate Bill 2415, Senator Boyd. This is a telemedicine bill that we passed during the pandemic. And it's up for deletion of the repealer. So Senator Boyd, would you maybe just give a brief history of the bill and why we want to delete the repealer?
Well, there's a few of us who have regulars and putting all of us in here, going through that process. This was basically a 2-year process of getting this legislation. The commissioners here, this has been a huge advantage for people in the state, seeing healthcare being delivered to rural parts of our state and to places that we've never had before because of the action of this bill. Particularly, it's been most effective, I think, with our patients needing psychological. They break the difficulty and our psychiatrist reports to me and our psychologist reports to me that this has been something that actually that we can do more effective. It also has really helped out with making sure patients have followed through. Whether we understand that or not, transportation is an issue for many of our individuals in the state of Mississippi. And this has helped people really get through, get to appointments that sometimes we miss them. It has been very convenient for people to use this. We've seen a huge expansion of our medicine services in the state because of this legislation. I'm sure the commissioner has not reported any really adverse things that they've seen in the process if they did provide regulations in this. So I would encourage you to extend the repealer and delete the repealer on this legislation.
Okay, any questions?
I've got one, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Quinn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator Boyd. In an appropriations subcommittee, the Medical Licensure Board is asking for additional employees to be able to investigate outside the state doctors, RE psychologists, or psychiatric associations. They're having issues with these big companies that have lawyer after lawyer after lawyer. And here this board has got one lawyer. Have we got stringent enough safeguards to protect our in-house, in-state doctors? Because this was done for patients, number one, but it was also done to help our medical community here in this state to be able to provide services. So are we confident enough that our doctors in-house are being protected away from these people from California or New York or Michigan or Arizona coming in and doing telemed with our people?
Well, with growth, there's always growing pains. That's what I'm going to say. And so I have had no Mississippi physician talk to me. Commissioner may be able to speak to this, that we have that this is interfering with patient services for our physician-patient relationships in state. So I think there are more services that are available to patients right now. And so I think the Medical Licensure Board, by the nature of what they do and what they oversee, this is just going to be, but this is not necessarily a bad thing in many instances, because that means patients have more providers. And so I think that it's incumbent upon them to make sure that those providers are regulated. So if we bring more providers in, their job is going to increase.
Correct. And I agree with you 100% there about Mississippians having more coverage. The issue at hand is insurance companies, are they paying just a blanket fee for the services, not checking or not knowing if it's a Mississippi doctor or licensed Mississippi doctor? And I guess that would be more of a commission question to me. commissioner's office. But do we have checks and balances for that?
We do. This is geared really towards the state of Mississippi. We face the problem, what do you do about a teledoc that you don't know is licensed to practice in Mississippi, lives in Chicago and bills you for $100 for a 2-minute phone call. So we've gotten past that. We've fixed the problem where it's geared towards Mississippi. I will tell you that we could quantify during COVID that we saved 54 lives from suicide just with this protocol. We put some things because patient confidentiality we can't divulge, but that's pretty significant. That's a big deal. When somebody's in a crisis and they can call the doctor, that's a big deal.
It is, yes, sir. And I know our governor and this legislature is concerned about the brain drain. That's all we heard for years and years, or we're not keeping the brightest and the best. And I just want to make sure that we are telling these folks that say, hey, I'm committed to Mississippi, that we are looking after you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Bland?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll tell you, I meet with physicians in my district regularly, and some of the things that we've talked about is the benefits that this bill has brought to patients and being able to access services, even in an urbanized area where I live. It is incredibly helpful for physicians, especially on the mental health side, to be able to see more patients. But that being said, one of the things that they brought up was something that this bill may not have anything to do with, but we have a lot of TV commercials that are running with Hims, Roe, all these different drugs that you can do. And the way that I understand is they set up telemedicine calls where you have an interview with a doctor or a physician. Is there any oversight from the state side to make sure that those doctors are certified, or that they have to have a reciprocating agreement or something? And then is there enough, are we collecting anything from these companies that are providing these services? Is there enough oversight on the company side to make sure that the business practices are not taking advantage of people in Mississippi? And does the commissioner have enough personnel and or revenue or maybe I should say enough resources to properly research those companies for not only the physician practices, but also for the business practices?
Hey, Mr. Chairman, this bill simply addresses removing the repealer. The issue of ordering drugs online has nothing to do with telemedicine. That's a whole different ballgame. And that's for the legislature or Mr. Blackman to address.
Title sufficient due pass committee sub.
The motion is title sufficient to pass committee sub Senate Bill 2415. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Senator Boyd, thank you for your work on this 4 years ago and for helping us, the committee today. Sorry we lost you on the committee. All righty, we're gonna go now to Senate Bill 2024. This is the Commissioner of Insurance to be appointed position, not elected. This legislation has come to this body at the request of the current Commissioner, Mike Chaney. That's the reason the bill is before us. If passed, it will remove the office of Insurance Commissioner from an elected position, the one appointed by the governor. The legislation puts requirements as to what qualifications the nominee or the nominee has to go before the Senate for advisory consent has to have. The person must have the following requirements: be at least 30 years of age, must have at least a bachelor's degree, and must have training and experience in the insurance industry. Now, similar to other positions with state government, like our banking commissioner, our workers' comp commissioners, or our Department of Revenue director, this also would be subject to the approval of the Senate. Commission shall have the authority to appoint his or her deputy commissioner, which should also follow the same requirements set forth among the commissioner. Now, I can tell you firsthand from seeing Mr. Cheney at national meetings, National Association of Insurance Commissioners and also National Conference of Insurance Legislators. He's pretty much a legend at these meetings. He has the respect. Mississippi is very well represented. Now, when he does decide to retire, the next person that wants to run for this position may not have the qualifications of him. I know this is going to be a personal opinion on whether you think the position should be elected or appointed, but anyone who wants to run for the position would still be able to put their resume in front of the governor, but they would have to have certain requirements. Be glad to yield any questions. If no questions, is there a motion? Motion is title sufficient to pass. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
No.
That bill will be reported. Bill 2388 comes to us from the Medicaid Committee, Senator Blackwell. This bill was double referred. Senator Blackwell met with me about this bill, and I did have some input on his change. That's why we have a committee substitute in front of us. The bill would give, would not allow any kind of discrimination against non-opioid or non-narcotic drugs to be on the formulary for Medicaid. It's just asking for even footing. It's not requiring one over the other. The section 2 of the bill did deal with the state health plan. We asked that he remove that. Commissioner Cheney serves on the State School Employees Health Insurance Management Board. Senator Hobson and I are on the Oversight Committee. They have asked us, please don't give us mandates. Let our board of professionals make these decisions. So we did remove that portion. So I asked that we move this bill along for Senator Blackwell. Is there a motion?
Title sufficient to pass committee sub.
Motion is title sufficient to pass committee substitute, Senate Bill 2388. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Senate Bill 2401, Senator Glennon, you're recognized.
Thank you. Senate Bill 2401 is an act to create a study committee on the matter of certification of health benefit plans and health insurers that provide for the financing and delivery of healthcare services to enrollees. What this committee will do, create a study committee on the matter of certification of these health plans and health insurers. It's not limited to health benefit plans that provide for financing and delivery of healthcare services to persons enrolled in such plans. The study committee shall make and find a report on its findings and recommendations, including any recommended legislation that should be happening with the clerk of the House of Representatives and the Secretary of the Senate no later than December 1st of this year, 2025. Study committee will be comprised 3 members appointed by the Lieutenant Governor, one which shall be the chairman of the Senate Insurance Committee, one of whom shall be the chairman of the Senate Public Health and Human Services Committee, and one of whom shall be medical doctor or other physician member of the Mississippi State Medical Association. 3 members appointed by the Speaker of the House, one of whom shall be chairman of the House Insurance Committee, one of whom shall be chairman of the House Public Health and Human Services Committee, and one of whom shall be medical doctor or other physician manner of the Mississippi Independent Physician Practice Association. 3 members shall be appointed by the governor, one of whom shall be the executive director of the Department of Finance and Administration or his or her designee, one of which shall be president or chief executive officer of a health benefit plan certified by the Department of Insurance or his or her designee, and one of whom shall be administrator for a hospital or ambulatory surgery center located in Mississippi. The Commissioner of Insurance will also be on this or his designee, the chairman of the Mississippi State Board of Health or his or her designee. Appointment shall be made within 30 days after the effective date of this act. Study committee shall study and make recommendations regarding the matter of certification of health insurance plans. This is a bill that we believe is greatly needed, and we ask that we move on with this piece of legislation.
Any questions? There a motion, Senator McClellan, on Senate Bill 2401.
Title sufficient, do pass.
Motion is title sufficient to pass. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill will be reported. Senate Bill 2412, Senator McClendon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 2412, Insurance Holding Company Act to include NAIC, which is the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, group capital calculation test requirements. And at this time, I would like to recognize Mr. David Browning with the Insurance Commissioner's Office to give a very brief explanation on this, please, sir. If we could.
Good, thank you. All this bill does is like Super McClendon says, an NAIC accreditation standard. It's already been adopted in 35 states. We're required to have it adopted by January 1st of 2026. And what it really does is it requires, if you're an insurance company, you have other entities within your holding company system, it requires some of these other entities within your holding company system to have a certain liquidity requirement, just to make sure if the insurance company starts running low on surplus, that other entity can contribute capital to it. It's just applying ratio standards to those other entities so that we can look at it, just make sure that group as a whole is well capitalized to be able to protect policyholders. So it's a very technical bill, and that's the extent of what it does.
Does it also have oversight over the wind pool money?
It does not. It does not.
Any additional questions? Motion, Senator McClendon.
Title sufficient, do pass.
Motion is title sufficient to pass. Senate Bill 2412. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? That bill will be reported. Senate Bill 2413. To strengthen Mississippi homes legislation. This bill has gone through 4 rewrites. At 9 o'clock last night, it was still being approved. This bill started, in its initial form, it involved diversions from the wind pool. All diversions from the wind pool have been removed from this legislation. I want to give you a very brief update on our wind pool. It is very financially sound. 440 million in assets. Just a few years ago, it was at 300 million. They buy reinsurance. They're forcing flood insurance. In the unfortunate event of a hurricane, that fund has grown dramatically to help our people who be affected in that. So again, no diversion from the wind pool. The only way to get homes improved and out of the wind pool, we want to try to get the homes out of the wind pool fund and carried by normal carriers, is to strengthen these homes and improve them so that they can sustain high winds. The name of this legislation has been changed from the Hurricane Mitigation Program to the Mississippi Strengthening Mississippi Homes. Okay, and that's going to include wind damage. So if you're not on one of the 6 or 7 or 8
Insurance.
Sorry.
6 or 7 or 8 coastal counties, the intent is to be able to let you be helped with this fund on hurricane and tornado damage as well. Tornado damage and heavy wind. So everyone who's been complaining about the windstorm, how all the money's going just to the coastal counties, will benefit from this legislation. The legislation calls for homes, but it also includes commercial property. The intent is for homes to be covered first. But one of our most valuable industries in Mississippi is poultry production. And for very little money spent on poultry houses, they could be safe from high winds. This would allow $15,000 per property or more if the owner pays. The money is in a separate fund. It will not be commingled with anything else. Last year, we appropriated $5 million into this fund. Now, how it will be funded is through the Insurance Commissioner's Office. There's an agency paid on insurance companies who do business in Mississippi for each agent they employ. Believe it or not, there's over 700,000 of these. And you say, how in the world did you get up to that number? Because some companies have multiple agents, may have hundreds of agents representing them in Mississippi. And there's hundreds and hundreds of companies who are doing business in Mississippi. But I saw the actual accounting from Mr. Browning. There's 720,000 last year. And so we're going to, the current fee on that is $25, paid only by the company. The agent does not pay anything. So we're increasing that fee to $50. That will put us in line with the other states in the surrounding area. And the full $25 additional will go into the Strengthening Mississippi Homes program. That would create around 18 million. At 15 million as a stopgap, there would be as many as 1,000 homes a year that could be fortified. Any funds in excess of 15 million each year will lapse into the general fund. What would take place in this retrofit process? Well, by doing just a few simple things, believe it or not, you can prevent water from getting into a home, which is the main problem. Hurricane Katrina was almost 20 years ago, so many of those roofs are 18, 19 years old, and within a few years are going to need replacing. So what you would do is remove the shingles, and you will waterproof, water seal the decking. You will also use, instead of normal nails, screws, really tie down the decking to prevent it from coming loose. Also, windows are a large area where water and wind can get in, so we'll fortify the windows with shutters or a Kevlar type, not quite bulletproof, but a real strong window that can withstand the damage. Any questions on the legislation? Yes, sir. Dr. Lana?
Okay, so this is a committee sub. I tried to read through it a few minutes ago, but I have not had anyone come talk to me about this.
The reason it's a committee sub is that any reference to the wind pool was deleted from it. That's the main reason.
But our main goal here is to do what?
Fortify a home. We're trying to be proactive, and instead of just sitting around and letting, in an unfortunate event, we have another hurricane blow away a house. We want to fortify the home to try to prevent a wind event from damaging the house. And the ultimate goal would be to get the homeowner in the normal pool of insurance carriers and out of the wind pool, try to depopulate the wind pool.
Okay, but we've opened this up to commercial properties. We've opened this up to people who are not even in the wind pool. But
It has nothing to do with the wind pool.
no, but what I'm saying is that an eligible person or an eligible homeowner could be anywhere in the state,
Yes.
right? Okay, which I'm not opposed to that. I'm 100% for anything that we can do to minimize risk of windstorm loss, which is human loss as well and livelihoods. My concern here is that we have a really good opportunity to strengthen a lot of homes. And from what I've understood from your explanation and what I've understood from the explanations in years past is that there's no true effort to try to increase the sustainability and protection for as many homes as we can. We're only focused on this particular program. There's nothing in here that speaks to, unless I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, please, speaks to the fact that we have to have local jurisdictions adopt building codes that are commensurate with the program requirements that are in here for any contractor or for any homeowner. We haven't done that. So we're missing an opportunity to increase the overall protection of homes. We also have not come in and required our local jurisdictions, especially in the high wind areas, to pass Code Plus standards like our neighboring states have done to make sure that any roof that is rebuilt or replaced in these high wind areas are done to a standard where it will actually reduce the cost, and that the insurance companies have recognized as a bare minimum for these high wind load areas. But that's not in this bill. That doesn't speak to this. And all that we're trying to accomplish with this, through this program, is to achieve mitigation for 1,000 homes a year, if
Yeah.
I understood correctly.
Yeah.
So out of how many households in the state of Mississippi?
No idea.
And in the state of Alabama, when they implemented this program many years ago, their mitigation program has been a huge success. And it's not just because of the program, or because of what the program provided. It's all of the other things that they did on the outside of the program, like I'm speaking about, where everyone who replaces a roof in the two lower Alabama counties of Mobile and Baldwin County are required to replace their roofs to the IBHS standard. And I don't know the exact number, but it is a huge impact that a mitigation program has had on not just the participants, but every single household and it changes a cultural mindset of what we should do, what should be the minimum building standards for the coast. I think I would really like to see this. I've asked the commissioner many years to help us with a strong mitigation program, but I don't see that in here. And then the other thing is that I don't understand exactly how this mitigation program is going to be done. Are we going to be reimbursing homeowners for this work that's done by qualified contractors, or are we going to be doing, or will this grant go to a contractor that the homeowner will have to accept to do this work within their own house?
Yes, there will be guidelines, and I'll let the insurance commissioners who will be administering the program speak to that.
First off, Senator, I appreciate what you're saying, but Mississippi's plan's the mirror image of Alabama, who got their plan from us originally. The enforcement of building codes on the Gulf Coast, which are mandatory, as you recall, since 2007, or six actually, are enforced by the local entities. I don't enforce them, but this standard is the IBHS. It's the highest standard, it's the same standard that's used in Mobile and Baldwin County and Alabama. So we do have the safeguards in place. And as far as the mitigation dollars, you have to have approved contractors, which we have. We already actually started mitigating some homes on the coast. It's a lottery system. In talks with the mayors on the Gulf Coast, Pass Christian is actually going to adopt IBHS standards, which they can do as a city. So we've done a lot of things on mitigation and enforcing floodplains and building codes, but the enforcement of the building codes is strictly up to the municipalities. What we have tried to do is to be certain that they are trained well enough, and we've been successful at that. The other part of this is that when you do a mitigation plan in concentric circles or blocks, as we call it, you lower the risk for everybody, and the reductions in rates have been phenomenal. Alabama has 50,000 homes they've mitigated. They've done, I think, David, correct me, about 7,000 through their mitigation program. And we've basically followed. We're the last one to get into the act, actually. We're the only state that doesn't have a program right now, except the one that we started last year.
Further questions, Mr. Chairman?
Please ask.
Commissioner, if you don't mind, I'm going to direct it to the commissioner.
Sure.
I hate having my back to him. So, Commissioner, would you be opposed to an amendment that would require a program eligibility to be such that the applicant would have to be located in a municipality that has adopted building codes for an enforcement of building codes within their jurisdiction, whether that be a municipality or a county, and that if they're in the high wind areas, such as the lower three counties, that they would have, that municipality or county would have to adopt a code plus measure that mirrors what Alabama has done?
I would be opposed to any amendment. If y'all want to do that, do it in a separate bill.
So are you really for mitigation then? I mean,
That's a
you're not-
silly question, Senator.
But you're only reaching 1,000 homes. And you pointed out right now that Alabama has had a great program, and I think their number is much higher than 50,000, but they've done that with a very small amount of money that went in, or a small number of those homes that were actually through the mitigation program. It was the local building codes and the local jurisdictions that passed those enhanced building codes that provide the lower risk for insurance companies, which has attracted more admitted and not admitted carriers back into their markets. And I'm just trying to do everything I can to help people in Mississippi, both in South Mississippi and in North Mississippi, be able to find other additional options for insurance.
Well, I will tell you, Alabama's been in the business of mitigation since 2016. Jim Rayland's a personal friend of mine, the former commissioner there. He's now retired, and we helped him get his program off because we couldn't get the wind pool to do anything. But as far as your amendment, you want to do, that's up to you. But I would encourage the committee. You've gone through 4 rewrites of this bill. We've met with all the proper leadership. Leave it like it is. It's a good bill. If anything, we probably should have added some exemption from the ITS standards that we have to have today, but that's another issue. But the bill is in good shape. It's got a lot of safeguards in it. It'll do a lot of good. Your can only mitigate so many houses a year based upon the number of contractors that are qualified, and that's been a pretty tough deal to do. And to meet the IBH standards, so it's the
So-
committee's bill.
I never heard the answer to the question though
Chair, what-
regarding
Again,
the contractors. Are you choosing the contractors to do this work, or will the homeowner be free to choose any qualified contractor? Meaning anyone who can do the work of, and be qualified to complete the IBHS standards. And then you're going to have an inspector that would come in and do the inspection, a third-party inspector? So
We
any
have-
contractor can do it.
Senator, you have a list of approved contractors that have been approved by IBHS, and the homeowner can choose from any one of those they want to choose from.
How many contractors do you have on that list now?
IBHS has approved 3. No, the 3 that we have now, we've already got started, and there'll be others that have applied. There was a meeting on the Gulf Coast Monday. I think we had around 40 people there that are looking to try to get qualified contractors on the coast. So we've got 3 that are qualified, approved by IBHS. You're familiar with them.
Yeah, so again, thank you, thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Chairman, I know, you know how passionate I am about this. It frustrates me to no end for us to not move forward with an opportunity to follow exactly what Alabama has done and what Louisiana is doing. We've been trying to get the legislature has been trying to get a mitigation program moved forward ever since I've been here, 2012. I'm very happy to see that the commissioner has finally moved forward with a plan that can work, where we have a lot of opportunities to do better than what is in here. As this works through the process, I just wish that we could do a qualification for this particular program where that homeowner has to live in a jurisdiction that's adopted and enforces building codes. That's the only way we're going to get insurance companies to come back in here and look at the lower risk options that are available. We can't document this properly, then we're not going to see the impacts that we're trying to get to, which is the lower risk and protection of lives, and also with doing everything that we can to bring other companies in here to be more competitive like Alabama has done. Thank you.
Senator Plenty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The one thing that stands out most to me about this is the title of the program says Strengthen Mississippi Homes Program. And we're adding commercial to it. I commend adding North Mississippi, Central Mississippi along with this. Because we've had devastating tornadoes from Senator McMahon's area to Senator Thomas's area, Senator Blackman's area, to my area. I mean, this state is not immune to wind damage at all. But I have heartburn about if a corporation has got somebody sitting there at the computer ready to apply for a grant for this, where we've got little old ladies or retirees sitting at home, you know, I'm not sure that if we should not have 2 programs, one for a commercial program and one for houses. And that's where I am on this. I don't know what the cost that would be, but to me, we should have just like we have commercial insurance and we have homeowners insurance. And usually the brokers or agents that write one or other don't do both. So that's my 2 cents on this.
Thank you. Another question?
I'm going to follow up with what he's saying. Are
What
there
question?
any other states? Are there any other states that have that provide mitigation for chicken coops?
Commissioner Cheney? Arkansas.
All right, I'd like to look at how that's stated, and I would like to know if we're going to follow some national guideline on it. This should be for strengthening homes, and we should be doing everything that we can to make lives and protect lives.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Yes, sir. Title sufficient, do pass committee sub.
Senate Bill 2413, title sufficient to pass committee sub. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill will be reported. Our last bill of the day. Senate Bill 2894, cybersecurity insurance. Ms. Sandy Ray, representing the Mississippi Insurance Guarantee Association, you're recognized.
David Brown is gonna speak on this, but the same question. Further, Arthur Russell with the guarantee here to explain further.
Thank you, Chair.
What this bill does, we have Arthur also, he's the executive director of Mississippi Insurance Guarantee Association here, but all this bill does is currently the way the law stands, it does not provide cyber insurance coverage under the Mississippi Insurance Guarantee Association. And what that is if an insurance company goes bankrupt and they can't pay their claims, then they go into the guarantee fund. And if this company wrote cyber insurance right now, that cyber insurance wouldn't be covered. So what this is doing is adding coverage under the Mississippi Guarantee Association for cyber insurance. Secondly, what this bill does is raising the limit of the maximum amount of coverage. Say if an insurance company writes homeowners goes bankrupt, they go into the guarantee fund. Right now, coverage is limited to 300,000. This is raising it to 400,000 due to the fact of the cost, replacement cost value over the last 10 years. Skyrocketed. It's gone well beyond 300,000. And then lastly, what this bill does is if an insurance company writes coverage here in Mississippi and another in that particular line of business is sold to another insurance company that's not licensed to write here in Mississippi, that guarantee fund coverage applies to, that follows that company, even though that company's not licensed here. So that individual that bought an insurance policy, their company went bankrupt, went out of business, they're protected if that policy is sold to another company that's not licensed here. It just provides protection for that individual. So that's simply what this legislation does. It's just updating guarantee fund laws.
Any questions? For a motion?
Title sufficient do pass.
Motion is title sufficient to pass Senate Bill 2894. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That bill will be reported. That completes the work of the Senate Insurance Committee. Is there a motion?
Advisor report.
All in favor, say aye.